HRN listeners. As we celebrate our 15th year, we are deepening our commitment to giving voice to the next generation of food systems storytellers, and we need your help. Our internship and fellowship programs help activate new possibilities for underrepresented and underestimated young people through experiential journalism, audio engineering, and production training. Through these unique programs, HRN helps food equity stewards build essential workforce readiness skills that expand their potential and foster economic mobility. Please consider supporting these critical programs. And with a minimum donation, you can be entered to win a dinner for two at an amazing restaurant in one of 8 cities and tickets to a concert at a great venue in one of those cities. We have incredible partners across the country who have donated, as they also share our passion for helping to educate the next generation of food systems storytellers. Check out heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. That's heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. And make sure you donate before March 31st. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to the Heritage Radio Network's Farm Report, live every Wednesday at 5. It's your host, Heather Hyman, and I'm here with my special co-host today, Patrick Martins, and we'll be speaking with Colleen Rapp, who is of the Rare Hare Barn, who raises rare and heritage breeds of rabbit in Leon, Kansas. Colleen, we're so happy to have you here with us today. How's everything going?
Everything's wonderful. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Anytime. We're glad to have you here with us. So, Colleen, just if you could give our listeners a little background. You've worked with the American Livestock Breeds Conservancy in the past, and can you explain to us a little bit how you got into raising rabbits and what your position there was?
Well, with the American Livestock Breeds Conservancy, I just rotated off of the board of directors and was the outgoing board chair. The ALBC is an organization that my husband Eric and I are very strong supporters of. We believe very deeply in their conservation mission and dedication to preserving heritage breeds of livestock, which includes rabbits. Mm-hmm. And our farm basically started with the rabbits. We just wanted something a little bit different. You know, after about the 8 millionth food recall, we decided we wanted to have a little bit more control over what we were eating. Both Eric and I have elderly parents, and, you know, diet's a big concern with them. So we thought we would just try rabbit. Eric has raised rabbits off and on, you know, most of his life. So it was just kind of natural. And we started out with just about 8 cages in a little shed off of my hay shed. Mm-hmm. And then we expanded to another building off of that, and then eventually my hay shed got taken over by rabbits, and we've just kind of kept expanding since then.
So that hay shed is now the Rare Hare Barn.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Well, I wonder, how many breeds are you raising right now at the Rare Hare Barn?
We currently have 6 breeds. The majority of which are on the ALBC Conservation Priority List, which, if you're not familiar with those, there are 11 breeds total on the ALBC Conservation Priority List, and 4 of those, the American Chinchilla, and Silver Fox, and the Giant Chinchilla, are unique to North America. They're not found anywhere else. And we have the American Chinchilla and Silver Fox in our barn. We also have the Blanc d'Auto and the Cream d'Argent. And then we also have a small group of Champagne d'Argents, which are actually not on the conservation priority list, but as one of the oldest breeds of rabbit, are just interesting to keep around.
Well, I have a question. I know, breed associations started, in the 19th century for pigs, horses. People have always been passionate about, documenting the various breeds of horses. Now, I know with goats, for instance, there were no real breed associations until the 1900s or something, early 1900s. They were like, oh, we should do something for goats, and they were late to arrive as a livestock breed that got that kind of attention. Where do rabbits fall in that? I mean, with names like American and this and that, I mean, how far do you trace their genes back, and tell us a little bit about the history of documenting genetics in the rabbit world. And how you acquired those genetics is what I was wondering about, too.
Okay. One of the oldest breeds of rabbit in the world is the Champagne d'Argent, and there have been historical references of that breed dating back to the 1600s. So these breeds have been in existence for quite a while, but it wasn't until the early 1800s that rabbits kind of became a big thing, and fanciers began keeping rabbits in their rabbitries and experimenting with different colors, varieties, breeds, and things like that. And so that's where you started to see the really incredible diversity in some of these rabbit breeds. And there are several breeds that can trace their ancestry back to the early 1800s, and clubs that were founded then. It was really a pretty big deal.
Wow.
And where was this? What country are we talking? It sounds French in a way.
Exactly. France, it really is kind of the cradle birthplace of rabbits. That's where the earliest rabbit breeds were developed. And from there, they spread through Belgium, Germany, England, and then over to the United States. Rabbits were really a big thing in the United States until about the 1890s, early 1900s. And then you had a phenomenon that they call the Belgian hare boom, in which thousands and thousands of Belgian hares, which are also on the ALBC conservation priority list, were imported into the United States. And people would pay just incredible amounts of money for these rabbits. One Belgian hare buck sold in 1901, I believe, for $5,000.
Oh my Lord!
Which would be literally hundreds of thousands of dollars today.
Yeah.
So it was really a pretty big deal at the early turn of the century.
And why do you think it was worth that much? Was it the hair that they wanted from the Belgians, or was it the meat qualities?
I think in that instance, it was a competition thing. The Belgian hare was very popular in the showroom, and so I think that was why, they commanded such huge prices. But then you also started to see the emergence of a lot of these other breeds, like the American, the silver fox, all of which were created in the early 1920s as kind of a response to this Belgian hare boom.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, with Michael Pollan's book, Botany of Desire, talks about people investing millions of dollars back in the day in tulips, and pig genetics. If you felt like you had a winning pig, and also just a desire to, even apples in this country. If you had an apple tree, everyone was always trying to win a competition for best apple on their farm. And there was a myriad of names, and people would name it after their farm name, and they would hope that would become the new Spitzenberg or the new Red Delicious. And so it's funny how, also I guess it was a famine-based culture back then. People never knew what the next winter was going to bring. So, of course, to invest in the best genetics was something closer to the home, the heart, the stomach.
Right. I definitely think so. It was, the best insurance policy they could get. And, the nice thing about rabbits and how they play into that is because they are so sustainable, and they can be raised successfully in a smaller space than a cow or a pig or something like that.
And they're the best. So the metaphor, right? They have sex like rabbits, right? What better food can you have than an animal that has sex all the time?
Exactly.
And do they have sex all the time? Tell us a little bit about their sex lives. And are they monogamous? Are they doing it night and day? Do they have seasons? Tell us about the origins of this the breeding saying. Yeah, how do they breed?
Well, I can only really specifically speak to what we do at the Rare Hare Barn, but because we are working with these heritage breeds that are low in number, we try very hard to keep as many diverse lines among these breeds in our barn. So we control very strictly which bucks get to breed, which does, and record all the litter data, everything like that. And rabbits are basically seasonally in heat most of the time. They're induced ovulators, though, which means that the doe does not ovulate until the buck actually mates with her. And so then she ovulates and then goes ahead and carries the litter. But I think, because they have such a fast metabolism and everything like that, I think that just seems to work well for them.
And they have sex a lot when they are in the same room together? Or, where does the metaphor come from then? Or do they have many babies with each mating, or what's
what's a litter size like too?
Well, it depends. We average about 8 to 10 kits for each of our does, on average. And I think, basically what you're referring to when they say breeding like rabbits is it's referring to wild rabbits who seem to just constantly crank out litter after litter after litter. It's a genetic survival strategy for them because they are a prey animal. So, if they have 1 or 2 litters a year that actually make it to adulthood, that's pretty good.
And one last question about the history. Rabbits are local to everywhere. Like back in the day, I know the chicken came from Indonesia. Was the rabbit, was it typical of many different parts of the world?
Generally, they believe that the first rabbits were found in Spain.
Okay.
And, picked up there by sailors and taken back to France and just kind of made their way around from there. But they think that's where the first rabbits were picked up. And all domestic rabbits are descended from the European wild rabbit. And the incredible variety that you get amongst these breeds is just from different mutations that have arisen over these years that people have capitalized on and used to create the incredible diversity of breeds.
Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'd love to talk a little bit more about how you've acquired these genetics and where we're going with the Rare Hare Barn in the future for rabbits in America.
All right, thank you.
Be right back.
Come on there, boys. With the Alabama Jubilee, we'll do it. Watch Joe step, one-legged Joe jumping around on his toes. Throw away his crutches, holiday, let him go. Because it's hell, the gang's on him for Alabama Jubilee, Black Bandit. Watch your step, one-legged Joe jumping around his toes. They both way his brother's holiday, let him go. Because it's hell, the gang's on him for the Alabama Jubilee. Do it, boy.
And we're back with the Heritage Radio Network's Farm Report, airing every Wednesday live at 5. Remember, for any questions, you can call in at 718-497-2128, and we'd be more than happy to have you ask your question on air with our guests. Colleen, you're with us?
Yes, still here, enjoying the music.
Wonderful. So, Colleen, how do you go about acquiring such hard-to-come-by genetics?
I'm very persistent. We just started out, obviously when we found out that we were going to do rabbits with our commitment to ALBC, we wanted heritage breeds. So I basically just started doing research, started contacting people. We've driven thousands of miles to pick up rabbits and just kind of acquire them that way, talk to as many people as possible. I love to find old-time breeders of these breeds that have had them for decades because there's such a wealth of information and generally have such great genetics. So, it's just a matter of doing a little detective work and being persistent.
And now, aside from them being on, the conservation list, are there any other reasons that you've chosen to raise the select breeds you have?
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with Kansas, but we can have all 4 seasons in the same week. So
that's the word.
We need breeds that are hardy, that are both heat and cold tolerant, and that can, tolerate extremes of temperature and everything like that. And most of these breeds, like the three that we have that are unique to North America, they were developed in the United States. They're adapted to different climates, in the United States. And so that was a big draw for us.
Right. Well, and now, like, what do you do with the byproducts? Like, for example, you mentioned the silver fox and the American chinchilla. Does that mean that that's like the same kind of chinchilla fur you'd find in like a beautiful fur coat? It is. It's very much the same. And unfortunately, the fur market tends to prefer the pelts from white rabbits because they can be easily dyed. I haven't developed a market for the pelts. I am playing around with a little home tanning of some different pelts. I may be in a few years just the crazy rabbit lady in the patchwork fur coat, but I hate wasting any of that kind of stuff. So I'm experimenting a little bit. Yeah, well, if any of our fashion people are out there listening, feel free to email me anytime at heather@heritageradionetwork.com, and I could put you in touch with Colleen, and maybe we can have some American Heritage jackets coming out.
Now, let me ask,
nice.
do the rabbits sell in pieces? I mean, do people buy the breasts or the legs, or are you always selling rabbits whole? And what's the general market out there?
Generally, we sell them whole. We can have them cut up into smaller pieces, but of course that adds to the cost. And so the whole fryer seems to be the most economical product that we can supply, and we deal with several restaurants who, when they get them fresh, and then they break them down, fabricate them, do whatever they need to with them, and then of course the heritage customers seem to enjoy the whole fryers also.
Now, I know, like, for example, when turkeys and chickens are processed, sometimes, like, not the whole bird ends up coming out of the slaughter in a pristine condition. Does that happen with rabbits, or sometimes you do end up with not a whole fryer and you have to then make use of the other meat?
Generally, no. We're very fortunate with Crable's, our processor. They really do a good job. They're very conscientious, so we have not experienced anything like that. Pretty much everything we take in, we get an entire usable fryer out of.
That's a good thing. And now, when you're actually eating these different breeds, are people able to discern the taste differences among them?
Believe it or not, yes, sometimes they can. Like, for example, the Blanc d'Oto, we've noticed, and some of the chefs we've worked with have noticed that seems to have a little bit sweeter taste and a little bit paler color.
Okay.
It's very subtle differences, but I do think that there are, some slight differences between the breeds.
And now, have you ever brought people to your barn and done any kind of demonstrations on how to raise them or how to process them on people's own land? I know here, in Brooklyn, people raise rabbits in their backyard, and even actually where we're broadcasting from out of Roberta's last November, they had a little rabbit processing demonstration here where they actually butchered rabbits in the backyard.
Right. We've not done anything like that at our farm. We have done some workshops on teaching people how to raise rabbits, how to select breeding stock, and, kind of get into the rabbit business. We've done several presentations for the ALBC, but that's really about as far as we've kind of explored that.
And let me ask, that Kim Severson article, for instance, that covered that story, did that lead to an increased demand? And, why aren't there more rabbits being produced? Of all the ones eaten in the United States, why are so few of the heritage variety?
Well, I think partly because the New Zealand and some of the other more common breeds, number one, they're white. So you possibly can get the pelts out of that as well. And I think a lot of people really just don't know about the heritage breeds, don't know that they're out there. Most people, unfortunately, a lot of people just think of rabbits as pets. These meat-type historical breeds really have just kind of fallen out of favor.
And now, would you be willing to share genetics if other farmers were going to come to you to say that, hey, I want to raise, heritage rabbits? Are you trying to, further the movement, with your own genetics and the breeds that you've, selectively bred?
Whenever possible, we do. Obviously, the demand can't always meet the supply, but we have helped several people kind of get started with their own small breeding herd. And, anytime we can help someone who's truly interested in conservation of rare rabbit breeds, we try to do that whenever we can.
And now, just like, for example, my question is, do you have a favorite way to prepare a rabbit so that you really can get the best taste, the best experience of the taste of the rabbit?
Well, one of our personal favorite ways is we have a small rotisserie oven, and we will cook fryers in that, and the meat's just incredibly tender, just a little bit of marinade that cooks slow, and it's just incredibly tender and really just falls off the bone. But to be honest, my answer is I will eat it however Eric cooks it. He does most of the cooking in our family, and I am fine with that.
Well, that's really nice to hear.
So what is your production schedule, and where do you hope to grow it to?
Right now, we are in the neighborhood of about 50 to 75 fryers a month, and we're hoping to be able to double that over the next few months. We've expanded our rabbitry again. We've actually built 2 new barns this year. So right now we're in the process of selecting replacement animals and kind of working up so we can increase our production a little bit.
And I wonder, how big is a doe when she's, how big are the does? Is it kind of like pigs where, like, the mothers are huge animals compared to the rest of the...
Relatively so. I mean, a good, healthy breeding doe for many of the breeds that we work with will weigh 10 or 11 pounds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but they can become big girls. Right,
because when a rabbit goes to market, you're usually aiming for, like, 2.5 pounds or something like that?
That would be the fryer weight. We're usually shooting for about a 5-pound live weight. And then, of course, by the time you process, if you wind up with a 50-60% dressing percentage, you're doing pretty good.
Right.
So we usually wind up with a 2 3/4 to 3 pound fryer.
And what is the age of a rabbit when it goes to get processed to be brought to market?
About 16 weeks.
16 weeks. So, okay.
And what does it cost you? I mean, whatever you're at liberty to talk about in terms of costs, like heritage breeds versus regular breeds of rabbit. How does that work?
You mean as far as like breeding stock?
Yeah.
Or
for meat.
Was that a cow?
It was, actually. I'm at work at the zoo, and there's a cow right outside my office door.
Wow. Which zoo do you work at?
I work for the Sedgwick County Zoo in Wichita. We have the largest collection of heritage breeds of livestock of any zoo in the country.
I couldn't help but ask. I knew there wasn't a cow in our backyard right now.
Sorry about that.
No, that's awesome. Thought you had your own sound effects board.
Yep, no, just live. So, we're steeped in rare breeds at our house.
Well, awesome.
That's amazing. And tell us, that zoo has the largest rare breed collection of livestock breeds?
That's right. I mean, we have breeds that are as rare and diverse as like a piney woods cow, a white part cow. We have a Poitou donkey, American cream draft horse. We've got, I think at one time I counted that we had about 30 breeds that are on the ALBC list.
Wow.
I think Heritage needs to take a field trip.
Yeah, or certainly get the director.
Anytime.
What's your position at the zoo?
I'm the senior zookeeper of the Children's Farms, which is where we house the rare breeds collection.
Wow. You need to take us on a tour, or we got to get a virtual tour. We got to figure something out to show people.
That is amazing. Well, and then what else? I mean, do you have any exotic animals there, or is it mainly just like the livestock world?
Oh, no. At the zoo, we have several exotic animals. I just am a cow lover, and I'm totally into the rare breeds. So, I just very rarely come out of my area. But we really have an incredible zoo here. We've got some wonderful species, some great zookeepers, and really, it's a great day job.
They must really like you if they allow you to have your favorite animals, like the cow, just hanging out outside your office.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly. Yep. It's a great place to work.
Well, Colleen, it's been great to have you on. I'm really excited to hear that you guys are expanding the farm. Actually, I think Heritage is going to have the opportunity to sell some of your fresh rare breed rabbits at the very beginning of July.
Nice.
So take a look at heritagefoodsusa.com or sign up for for our email list to get an update as to when you'll be able to try Colleen's Rare Hare Barn fresh heritage rabbits. And thanks so much for being a guest today. We will definitely have you on again. And thank you to Jack and Nat for producing and engineering today.
Just Nat.